Good evening, witches.
Hey, witches.
Welcome to week 3 of the Beginner Witch series. Tonight, we're going to be talking about divination. We'll get started in just a minute.
Yay.
All right, so as people are joining, I'm just going to do my little welcome. Welcome, witches. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm Kat, and this is my daughter, Jayme. I'm a newer witch, 3 years into my practice. Jayme's been doing this for 1,000 years. No, just kidding. She's not that old. Almost 23.
25 years almost. Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna start saying 25 because it's close enough, right?
Yeah. I was 17. I'm about to be 41, you guys. Like in oh shit, is it less than a month now?
All right, wait a minute. Hold on. Stop the presses.
I know.
I'm her mom. Older. I'm her mom. That's just not even right. I'm sorry.
You're getting older.
Okay, anyways, I was saying welcome. I just want to give a little intro for those who haven't heard this before. First of all, for everybody who's coming back from last week and week 1 and week 2, welcome back. For everybody new, as I said, I'm Kat. This is Jayme. We started the New Witches Q&A meetup in November 2020. And, you know, we had like six members when we started, and we used to just do random questions. We'd get people online, just like whatever you want to talk about. So it was very loose. And then Jayme started structuring the meetings and planning lessons. And we got really better at what we were doing. We started recording them. We set up a YouTube page. We've got our YouTube channel where we've got past meetings recorded with all kinds of information out there. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, it's 7 Green Sisters on YouTube. Check it out. Please subscribe. We love you. We thank you all, by the way, everybody who subscribed, because we got our name. We're so happy about that. So thank you so much. When we started this group, we probably had, 20 members or something like that. Today, we're pushing 1,000. I think we have 960. Woo! Power to the witches. Yeah.
Oh,
man, it's blown away. Jayme and I also run a business called 7 Green Sisters. That's with my other daughter, Jolene. Really, they started it before I got here. And we thought we'd be making crafts and selling them on Etsy. And then we just realized how much work was involved in that. And also that it really didn't accomplish what we realized the goal of 7 Green Sisters was going to be. And that was to educate and to form a community. So here we are today with that new goal of 7 Green Sisters is a community. 7 Green Sisters is witches helping witches. And that's what we're all about. So as you know, anybody that's a new witch, there's an overwhelming amount of information out there. How I ended up running this series is that I read and listened to a book called The Solitary Witch's Green Book. And I really liked it because it was a step-by-step. Each week you did different things to build on your skills as a witch and on your knowledge and your tools and all of that. So this meetup is loosely based around that book. I recommend it for anybody. You can probably get it for $10 or $12 on Amazon, but you don't need it because you can just come here and get, that information plus a little bit more. Lastly, if you missed week 1 and week 2, and even if you didn't, there's a Google Drive that I created for this series where I'm putting the week's lessons, and within the lessons are also exercises and prompts and things like that. So the whole lesson's written out. You can go there and download it. I also put some other things in there. Just I'll keep building that Google Drive with what I hope to be useful information for new witches.
and I just want to give a huge props and thank you to Kat, because when I was doing the meetings, I had little note cards where stuff was barely written out, and now she's giving you guys tonight's meetup has 5 pages of writing that she did. I'm like, Ma, she's showing me up. So I love that she's putting so much effort into it, because I know that you guys are going to find a ton of value in it. And as long as you have the link, it's accessible to you for forever. We're never going to take it down. So you know that you can keep returning to it. Anything we add to that folder, you have access to.
Yep. And speaking of that folder, so the link to the folder is in tonight's meetup. You can find that there. You can also find a link to, we have a Facebook group, so we can all get on a private Facebook group for
Facebook
new
group.
Witches Meetup. So if you guys join that, we're kind of introducing ourselves there and getting to know each other a little bit out of the meetup application, which doesn't really facilitate a lot of conversation except when you're in the meetup. So we have that. So please look, that link is in there. And then just because, you know, we are a business, I also put in a link tree, which links you to all the other 7 Green Sisters that you are free to check out or not.
All our dabblings.
Yeah.
All the things we dabble.
Listen, 5 years from now, you guys are going to be able to say, I knew them when. All right. Okay. So without further ado,
7:36.
it's 7:36. We're 6 minutes in.
Start the lesson.
I'm going to start the lesson. So I'm going to take a sip of an adult beverage.
A little brew to keep us warm because, you know, it got down to 39 degrees here in Florida and we had to turn heat on.
I bet half of our witches are in some place where it's really actually cold, like Maggie in Maryland, and she's wearing I wanted one of those. Oh, it's a beanie. Yeah, I needed a beanie this morning when I walked the dog, Maggie. I love it. Love on it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of cold for Florida.
Now I gotta move further south. I thought I was south enough.
All right. Tonight we're going to talk about divination. And divination is the practice that seeks to foretell or future events or perceive or discover hidden knowledge. So that's just one definition.
Yes, I know
Of divination. It's been around since the 1st century and it's found in ancient and modern civilizations. In the Roman culture, divination was concerned with discovering the will of the gods. You'll find it most frequently in contemporary society in the form of astrology, horoscopes, crystal gazing, tarot cards, which we're going to talk about tonight, Ouija boards, and other forms of divination. Those are just a few things. Divination, go ahead.
Can I do a nerd alert? You guys know I love the history of words, right? Divination comes from a word from so long ago that it's connected to so many things, which actually means from God, to God, from goddess, the shine, the shiner, the shining, like anything to do with light and seeing and bringing forth knowledge. All of these, and it doesn't, you know, for our English now, it doesn't make sense, but it's DEYUS or DEUYS. But if you ever want to look it up, like the things that the word divination actually traces back to is amazing. But in our language, Latin, it just means to predict. Easy situation there.
There you go.
Divination equals predict.
Or discover hidden knowledge. I guess that would be also prediction.
Yeah.
So divination is used by many witches, but you do not have to be a witch to practice divination. I've probably been using tarot since, you know, I was a teenager or been interested in it. Many of you probably have something that you've dabbled in. I don't know. You can tell us about it in the chat if you want to. Share with us. So for your tools, for your divination tools, of course, there's divination itself, which is the act of, the practice of, and then there are the tools that you use.
What?
Just you can hone this skill through medication. I mean, meditation. Don't use medication to hone your skills.
Did you
please.
change that? Oh, it's on here still. I had her change it on the actual draft.
I did. That was me typing away.
Yeah. No medication.
Okay, so of course, there are many ways to practice divination. And if you don't believe me, get tonight's lesson out and I've got a link to 62 methods of divination. I had no idea. There's that many, really? Wow. Okay. But tonight we're going to focus on pendulums, pendulum, runes, and tarot. Excuse me. She makes me laugh.
Sorry.
So anyway,
I'll try that.
all right. So a pendulum. Who's used a pendulum? Raise your hand or put it in the chat. So this is really the easiest divination tool you can create at home, because the only thing you really need is a bead or a coin or an earring that you lost the other one to. This is like, I can't tell if you can see this or not because I'm so far away.
Yeah.
But that is,
Earring.
that's a moon earring, and I lost the other one somewhere. So I was like, well, I'm going to make this into a pendulum, and then I got a necklace. So there you go. So that's all you have to do to make a pendulum, y'all. You do not have to go out and buy one. Just get a chain and something to hang it from. Okay. And we are not going to go through the whole thing of doing a reading on here because that would be pretty boring. But the instructions, in case you don't know, are in your lesson plan tonight in the Google Drive.
Yes.
All right. So, but briefly, what I'm going to tell you is you would think of a yes. First of all, you would calibrate your pendulum by asking a question, a yes or no question that you already know the answer to. And then you would wait until it stops moving and see which way it's moving. And, so your question might be something like, I thought of, my name is Kat, and my hair is blonde. And then I was like, oh, wait, the universe might go like, I'm sorry, your name is Katrina and your hair was blonde, but it's only blonde now because, so come up with something you can ask that you know, and ask the question and see how the pendulum moves. It might move back and forth. It might move in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction, and try to get to the point where you can know when it says yes, when the answer is yes to your question, that is making this movement, and when your answer is no, it's making a different movement. And that's it. And these instructions are in your lesson tonight. There's a little bit more than that. So pendulum, y'all, I don't know. I saw somebody raise their hand that they had a pendulum and used one. I don't know how many people actually use this. For me, because it's the yes or no, I probably wouldn't do it, wouldn't use it much. But hey, it's out there as a tool, and some people might really love it. So try it. I personally think as a new witch, it's always a good idea to try different things just to see what you resonate with. So your first exercise this week is to make a pendulum. It's as simply as just some jewelry that you're not using, right? And just try it 3 or 4 times this week and see how it works for you. See if you can get it to respond. Pendulums respond to different people in different ways. So see if that works for you. Because you might actually, even though I say, yes or no questions, no, not for me, but that doesn't mean it's not for you. And again, I think it's a good idea as a new witch to explore things and then just decide, yeah, I tried that and right now it doesn't work for me. And you know what I'm going to say about this, right? Journal about it. You guys have your journals from week 1. So write about it. Okay. That was pendulums. All right. Now we're going to move on to runes. I bought some runes. Now, let's see. I'm going to turn this down here. This is back it up. So this is a set of runes, just a few that I picked up. Oh, here we go. Okay. I think they're pretty. They have little symbols on them. I tried them once. I think I'm going to go back and try them again because for tonight's meetup, I did a bunch of research about runes and I thought the story of them was really fascinating.
It is fascinating.
So I'm going to go back and try these. So let me just give you a little history, and Jamie's going to, in case you don't know anything about runes. Okay. So they're an ancient set of symbols or numbers.
You're going to find your English. Don't worry. It'll be fine.
Runes are an ancient set of symbols or letters of the alphabet that were used for writing, magic, and divination in Northern Europe in the 1st century. There are many different runic alphabets. The earliest and most common is
the Elder Futhart. It's Futhart.
And I would have said Futhart. It's Futhark. So however you pronounce that, but that was a system that was used by the Germanic tribes. The ancient inscription of runes has been discovered in North America and Greenland, evidence that the Vikings brought over this ancient alphabet when they first started landing there in the 980s. It's believed the rune letters derived from either Latin or Northern Italian alphabets and came about as a result of the Germanic tribes trading with the Romans and other European tribes. So these go back a long way. And I don't know, I like that connection to the ancient practices. I mean, I just think that's kind of cool. So the runes were a practical form of writing, and they appeared on everything from weapons to household objects to jewelry, monuments, and amulets. The word rune means secret or mystery. They were often carved into tiny thumb-sized stones that were put in bags and hung around the neck. There's a common misconception that rune masters practice fortune telling with runes. Runes are more a tool of self-knowledge, guiding you to the answer that is already within. So within your lesson tonight, Jayme just told me this story and I thought it was fascinating. So you know the symbol for the Bluetooth that we have, that everybody has on their phone and in their car, right? So she's just telling me the story about this. And this actually, that symbol is actually a combination of two of the rune letters, H and B. And they are the initials of a Viking king. How do you say that guy's name? His king is, I don't know.
It's Harold Bluetooth.
Harold Bluetooth was his
actual name.
His King Harold Bluetooth, who ruled over all the tribes in Denmark from
seven tribes
from 958, and then managed. Okay, so here's the most interesting part. He managed to conquer all parts of Norway, making all the different tribes communicate and unite. So I guess when the guy that created Bluetooth, the name, was looking for it, he was reading a book, and that's how he came up with the name. But I gave you the story of that. It's in a link in your lesson tonight. It's pretty fascinating. You want to add anything to that? Because you could probably tell the story without them reading. Right?
No, it's, I mean, in the simplest way, it's just that this king, first off, he didn't want to be king. All right. He ruled one little part, but everybody said, everybody trusts you. You need to go to these other, I'm just going to call them like tribes. You need to go to these other tribes. You need to get them talking. Otherwise, war is going to break out between 7 tribes. So with his people's like encouragement, he set out to bring these 7 tribes together who did not speak the same language. And there's no record of exactly how he did it. They just know that from him reaching each tribe, that he brought 7, you can't call them kingdoms, but 7 tribes together to all speak. And what was so unique is that they all spoke different languages. And that's why Bluetooth makes all electronics talk to each other. That's why they named it Bluetooth. So the guy's name was Bluetooth. It's just cool. It's like when you look at the little symbol, you can see that it's the rune. It's the B and the H looking ones. I don't know their real names.
I love that story because we can relate it to go back to the 1st century, and now here we are in the 21st century. Mind blown. Okay, love it. Love that connection. So I also included in your lesson in the Google Drive how to make your own runes, which I think would be a fun exercise. Or of course, you can do what I did, and you can just go to your local metaphysical store and buy a little box with a little book and everything for about $20. So, okay. Now, your exercise this week for runes is to read up on the history and determine if this is a form of divination that you might be interested in. If you want to explore it, you'll either need to buy a set of runes or make your own. And whatever the outcome of your explanation and your exploration and your research, journal about it. Again, remember your journal. We talked about this in week 1. Your journal is going to record your journey as a new witch. In a couple of years from now, you're going to be in a much different place than you are today. You're going to have so much more knowledge and so much more experience in your craft. And you're going to be able to look back on the things that you write today and go like, wow, look how much I've grown. So it's the importance. It also it's the important part of the journey, I think, is the recording of it, and just like where you are, where your head is today, what you know today, what questions you have, and just see where you go from here. It also helps you with shadow work when there's things you're struggling with.
When family members bring things to your attention that you're like, oh shit, I think I need to work on something.
Yeah, we'll have to tell you a story if we have time.
In the Q&A.
We'll have to tell you a story if we have time about that. So we're giving each other the eye. There's a story behind that. When we're not on camera, I'll tell you guys, because it's sort of
personal. It's very personal.
It's personal and vulnerable and all of that. But I know, I think we mostly have women on here. You'll totally relate. Probably men would too, because it's just, anyway, moving on. So that's your exercise.
Ooh.
Okay.
I have a little tidbit for you guys on your journals that you're keeping now, and a mistake that I made. So I'll be vulnerable really quick. So I did start this journey when I was like 17, 18 years old, but I didn't really start journaling until I was 19. And my journaling is what kept track of things that I learned and resources. Because when I was 19, it was 2000. It was the year 2000. So back then, resources were so limited, and where I found stuff was so important. And I would have like these printouts of things and how I found them. Regardless, my feelings were all written down in all of this stuff. I was young and I was heavily influenced by relationships. And when people that I dated found some of my stuff, first off, they shouldn't have been looking, but they found my journals and confronted me about it because it had past relationship stuff in there. It had, just whatever I wrote. And they would get pissed off. And then to justify the relationship or whatever, to like show my devotion to whoever, I ended up throwing my stuff away thinking like, okay, well, this is like the old me. I don't really need it. Do you know how much I wish I had that right now? Do you know how much I wish I had? Oh man, I just want to like smack my old self for letting somebody decide what was good for me.
Not that guilty.
Listen, guilty. So when you keep your journals and stuff, keep them somewhere and don't ever let anybody tell you that you shouldn't have them or to get rid of them. Because I'm telling you, in 5, 10, 20 years, when you look back, you get to talk to your old self, like your younger self. You get to have that conversation like, wow, look at that growth. Look at that movement forward. So there's my heartbreak story for the night. That's it. So keep your journals and don't let anybody take them away.
Yeah. So I was already writing about some pretty personal stuff and think, I live alone right now. So, but those of you who know me know I've been looking for love. And so I started writing some things, and then I got to thinking, gosh, if somebody moves into my house or I start a relationship and I'm living with someone, what am I going to do to keep this stuff private? And because it needs to be private, because I'm writing private things about past relationships that I'm still working through, and even people that I'm meeting now that I'm like, trying to figure stuff out. And I don't ever want anyone to read that and have their feelings hurt, so I don't know how, the witch's box with the lock might be a good place.
We all need a good trunk to store our secrets in.
Exactly, because the little diary with the little lock on it, that's just too easy to pick. It's not going to work. So, all right. So that was, I know those two pendulums and runes were really quick, and now we're into like, I swear to you all, tarot must be my very favorite. Beside, in addition to astrology and numerology, tarot is my absolute favorite witchy tool, witchy thing to do. I think I mentioned I've been, probably got interested in tarot as a teenager, but I never bought my first tarot deck until about 15 years ago. You want to tell your first tarot deck story? I was going to tell it for you. I can, but
no. Well, I'm here. I can.
She can tell it. Okay, so
so I had an art teacher. I was a huge art nerd and really quiet kid, got picked on a lot, all of that good stuff. And for whatever reason, my art teacher came over with a deck of tarot cards, which I have no idea. I wish I knew, because there's one card that stands out, of course, but hands me this deck of tarot cards and says, I think you'd be really good at this. I was like, what is it? I don't know tarot cards. So I open it up and it's all these cards with different pictures, and I'm instantly memorized, right? It's art, number one. So I see the artwork and it's like, oh man, finding meaning in that. Of course, art appreciation and like digging into it. So for me, the cards and the symbology that the artist used in those cards specifically, it hit it for me. I was like, wow, I love these, the images, the pictures, like what's going on in it. She let me every day in her class read tarot cards for other students. And she thought it was great. She's like, I think this is good for your growth. Like, I'm interpreting art. That was her whole idea. I was interpreting art. So, and as I did it, she didn't have a little book that went with it. It was just like cards with meanings. And every student that was like, yeah, I want to see what this is about. Here I am. I think I've admitted this before. When you first start saying things that come from your intuition, you feel yourself saying like, are you a liar? Why are you saying that? Who's making you say that? You can't say that. You don't know if that's real. What are you doing? And that's how it felt. But, these people didn't like me anyway, so I wasn't trying to gain friends. So I just spoke what I spoke. And it hit so many people so hard. It was like, oh man, I think I might be good at this. Something's in this. So I was in that teacher's class for about a year, and then I went off to the Navy and I had to buy my own deck. I never found out what her deck was, but then I just, started studying the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, like most people do at their first turn. But now today we have like hundreds of card decks. So,
We
explore.
We do. And to talk about tarot as a divination tool, I hope all of you on this call, even if you're a really new witch, you know what tarot is, and maybe you even have a deck. If you haven't, that's good. If it doesn't interest you, that's okay. We do what we want. That's our motto as witches, witches that are not in Wiccan and not in a coven and not part of solitary witches. We do what we want. So you pick and choose the things that you want to follow.
You pick and choose what feels right for you. Nobody can tell you, you should be doing this. You should have this. This should be your thing. No.
So what I'm going to talk about in terms of tarot is not so much what each of the cards are. We're not going to go into that because that would be, I don't know, it would be really long. Yeah. It would be very long, and you're new witches. And I think as a new witch, what I'm giving you some things ways that I would encourage you to consider practicing or learning tarot, because in my mind anyway, you can follow the memorization. Like I memorized the multiplication tables when I was in 3rd grade or something like that. But memorization is, you can do it that way, but that's really hard and it's not intuitive. And I really feel like it should be from an intuitive place. So I have a couple of ways that can help you do that. Let's see where I got lost because you told your story.
Oh,
okay. So memorization. So there's a few ways you can go about. Let's first talk about picking a deck of cards if you haven't. If you're new to this, I'm going to recommend the easiest. Oh, I've got them over here. Sorry, I already did this. So I'm going to recommend the easiest way to start out is with the Rider-Waite cards. These are, you can get other cards that are really cool. And I love all the decks of tarot cards that are out there. I want to buy them all because I just think some of them are so beautiful. But this is really simple. I feel like it's simple to learn in that, I don't know, it just seems easy to learn. But here's what I want to caution you about. When you go to buy your deck of cards, be careful what you choose. Yes, you can. Hold my paper up behind it.
The paper?
Oh. Yeah, so you can see this. So I want you to be careful what you choose because I picked this card, this deck,
yeah,
because it was so beautiful. But when you go to the store, they don't let you open the box and touch the cards, right? So I looked at the cards and I was like, oh, they're so pretty. There was a sample of them there, but silly me, I didn't look at the cards. And when I
put your hand next to it.
When I got them home, they're so big, I can't shuffle them. Yeah. So you guys, when you're picking your cards, just make, check, especially if you're going to buy them online. It had a pretty velvet bag. I was like, I wanted them to work so bad. I thought about trimming them. That's how much I like them, trimming the individual cards. But these are kind of a waste. This is a $25 lesson right here. So when you pick your cards, pick wisely so you don't waste money. The other thing about when you finally get a deck of cards or when you purchase your deck of cards, one thing I always do with new cards, tarot or oracle, is I sleep with them. So I put them under my pillow. And for like a week, I sleep in bed. And I swear to you, I connect with those cards when those cards are under my pillow for a week like that. They know who I am and the messages that come through for me are so on point. I don't have to wait to break them in or whatever. Okay, so that's a little bit about choosing a deck and getting the deck connected with you. Now, as far as trying to learn tarot from an intuitive place, one of the things that you can do, one of the first things I would do is take a week or two and study a suit in the tarot, like pick the cups or pick the wands or whatever. understand or learn what each suit of the deck means, so, or represents. So cups, you probably know, is feelings, emotions, intuition, and creativity. And if you get a lot of, when you see a lot of cups in your reading, it's usually about relationships, your emotional connection with yourself and others. So learn these things know that the cups means that. And I mean, know it, so you don't have to refer back to it. So really know it. Pentacles represents finances, work, and material possessions. And it's about career and financial health.
Turning the page.
Swords is about your thoughts and words and actions. And swords is about ideas, making decisions, and asserting your power. And again, you guys don't have to write notes really fast because I have this in your lesson. I typed it all out nice and neat for you. So if you're doing that, you don't have to. If you want to, you can though. And then wands is about energy, motivation, and passion. And it has to do with your life purpose, spirituality, and new ideas. So one of the pictures that I put tonight in the meetup shows the suit of cups, I believe, laid out from 1 through the king. And what I would do is sit down and study those cards and look. Each set is a journey. So the aces, and please interject if I misstate anything, Jay.
Okay.
The aces are a beginning of something. And when you get to the 5, you're in the middle of this journey. And by the time you get to 10, you're at the end of the journey. So that's in general what the numbering. So the number is not random. The numbering of the cards is definitely not random. There's an order to it. And I believe the major arcana follows the wheel or the life. I didn't get into that. You can speak to that if you like. So,
well, I think one thing that's good to know when you look at the cards from ace to king is that when you're reading it for somebody, the simplest thing that you could say if you got the 5 of cups was to say you're in the middle of an emotional thing. And this is where the intuitive part comes, because you could say, like, the first thing that came to my mind, I don't know why, was you're in the middle of an emotional battle, or you're in the middle of transitioning from emotional situation. But using those 2 words, middle and emotion, is what helps direct the energy in which you are receiving the message for the person. So that's why the placement is good to know, and then what the suits represent is good to know. So just having those 2 things down, you can start to see, like, okay, well, here we've got middle of emotion, maybe you've got, wand, which is fire, so you've got transformation. So you could kind of link those together. An emotional transformation. Did you just get out of a breakup? Did you just change jobs? I mean, there's ways to go with that. And as you read intuitively and you just say the words that do pop in your head, when you start to trust that, you will be absolutely amazed at how right you can be, that stuff will flow through you. And it's the most amazing feeling when you get done doing a reading and you're like, oh shit, I cannot believe I was just able to say all of that, because it's not you. I mean, it's not you physically, your brain, right? It's like the other side trying to connect to give that person a message. So I always feel so honored to be that channel, and knowing the cards allows me to start that process, sort of like automatic writing, where you just start writing and then stuff starts happening and you're like, what the hell? What did I just write? That's sort of how reading the cards can go, by just knowing those 2 key things.
And we're going to talk about creating a ritual for reading your cards here in just a minute. That's going to reinforce what Jayme just said. Okay, so one of the questions, we've been doing this for over a year, and one of the questions, I don't know how many times we've gotten this, but one of the questions we get is, can someone else touch my cards? Yeah, it's a question that comes up a lot, or is anybody else supposed to touch my cards? So I guess, my question to you would be, what are the reasons you wouldn't want others to touch your cards? You might pick up their negative energy. But if you're reading for somebody else, you're probably going to have them shuffle the cards. You're going to shuffle the cards, and you're going to have them shuffle the cards or cut the cards. So right there's an exchange of energy. Remember that you can always cleanse your cards, and it might be a good way to start the ritual that you did, I'm going to give you a way to create a ritual for reading that's going to include cleansing. Of course, your cards are not a deck of cards to play with. So kids, hands off, I mean, they are a witch's tool and they are, I think, precious. So you don't just want anybody touching them. But for me anyway, I think I saw someone shake their heads like, never touch your cards. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you do what you want to do, witch, because it's your journey. But just know, like any of your other tools, your cards can be cleansed. Okay. And in your lesson tonight, I give you 10 ways to cleanse your cards. Okay.
Yay.
Lastly, here is what I'm going to give you now is a way to creating a ritual, the actual steps. And again, you don't have to write this down. But I've watched Jayme. Jayme reads cards for people a lot. She reads cards regularly for me and my daughters. And I've always watched the way she does it. And I really love it because what she does is, and I'm sharing your way, and I hope that's okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Open book here.
Okay. So what she does is, first of all, she starts by clearing the energy from those of us that are going to get read, herself included. So saging, vanishing the negative energy, send it back to where it can be recycled. And
yeah, I just say go back to where you came from.
Go back to where you came from. So clear the energy. Then set your space to read. So an altar cloth is a good way to define the space where you're going to read. There's a picture in tonight's meetup of an altar cloth that includes a crystal grid if you want to raise your vibration and get the effects of different types of crystals. There's a grid on there it's one of the ones that she uses, which I really love. So set your space and set a crystal grid. You don't have to do that, but I do like to have at least a couple of crystals, even though I don't have all the ones that she does. But anyway, set a crystal grid, and we'll talk about what that might include in a minute. And then light a candle and call in your team of light or your spirit guides or whoever it is that you call from the other side to help you bring through the message that needs to come through for your reader or for your readee. So what I'm saying here is, if you don't have a ritual yet, if you're just pulling a card a day, which is a great thing to do. I used to do that all the time.
Good practice.
I used to do it every day and record it. If you're just doing that the ritual is, I don't think is as important as but if you're going to sit down and read a card for a friend, I think that ritual part is so empowering and powerful that it's worth the 5 minutes or so to collect the things and put it together. Because I'll tell you, the vibration, what happens in the room when we read cards together as a group, it's like, oh my God, it's
no secret can hide. I'll tell you that. No secret can hide. I'm just saying.
It's true. Another vulnerable little thing. Oh my gosh, you guys, I could just tell on myself so bad this week. It's really bad. I'm 63 and I am still learning how to live this life. So as I said, anyway, there is a picture of an altar cloth with a crystal grid, and then there's a picture of a crystal grid. But I'll give you an example of what you might on tonight's meetup, and also in the Google Drive. But I'll give you an example of what's going on there. So we've got amethyst for universal love and love for people, which is placed closest to the person being read. Mm-hmm. We've got smoky quartz to clear negative energy and for protection. We've got fluorite, which lessens the ego of the reader. In other words, it helps you get out of your own way. And it helps you so that you can receive messages from your guides. We've got selenite to help with the connection from the other side. Labradorite is a mystic's stone used for any kind of spell work and magic. And quartz is an amplifier. So if you look at the pictures, either on tonight's meetup or you go to the Google Drive and you see them, you can see how that's laid out and what you might use them. Now, the crystals that I gave you, those are just, you don't have to use those. Find the ones that speak to you. Find the ones that work for you for what you're doing. But that's just a really, I really love her. I really love her layout. I'm such a copycat.
Yeah.
When it comes to all my daughter's stuff, I think I really am. So, all right. Your exercise. This is your last one for this week. And I would like you for this exercise when it comes to tarot, I would like you to choose the exercise, choose what you're going to do based on your level of experience. Where are you today? So here's just a couple of ideas, and you have to decide, where am I? Do I even own tarot cards? So I'm just going to read these, and then you decide which one you want to do. Create a ritual for reading your cards. Write about it in your journal, describing what your ritual is and how you came up with it. Or if you're brand new and don't even have a deck of cards, get a deck of cards. You can get them, you can order them on Amazon for like $20. If you can't do that now, that's okay. Wait until, I don't want anybody to feel like they have to run out and spend money, because I don't believe that you do to be a witch and to practice. You can wait. And if you're not already an intuitive reader, if you need practice, then follow this suggestion of starting to learn your suits and trying to learn your cards from an intuitive place. So, take the next 2 weeks, pick a suit, study that, look at the pictures in it, look at the backgrounds in it. What do you see? What's going on in these cards? Try to understand what's happening in the suit of cups and the suit of swords and wands. And of course, you know what I'm going to say, witches? Journal about it.
Always with the journal prompts.
All right. And that concludes week 3 of the Beginner Witch series for divination. So,
good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for it. All right. So for those of you who are new, what we do at this point is we do a little sign off for our recording, and then we turn off the recording and let you ask questions so you can come on camera and maintain your privacy and not have your face out all over YouTube if that's not what you want. So in 1 second.
All right. Pretend ending.
Go ahead. You do it this time. Thank you for joining us tonight for week 3 of the Beginner Witch series. We look forward to seeing you next week. Good night, witches.
Have a magical week.